Bought a house before marriage and refused to put my husband's name on the deed, so he stopped contributing to household bills entirely, claiming that if he is a guest in my home, he shouldn't have to pay for utilities or groceries. I bought my house about 4 years ago, well before I even met my husband, Steven. It's a 3-bedroom place in a decent neighborhood, nothing fancy, but it was a huge achievement for me because I scraped together the down payment by working 2 jobs and living with my parents until I was 26. Steven and I have been married for 2 years. He moved in shortly after we got engaged. At the time, we sat down and had a very specific conversation about finances because I wanted to make sure everything was clear before we combined our living situations. I didn't want any confusion later on. I told him that since the house was my premarital asset, I wasn't going to put his name on the deed. I had seen too many friends get burned in breakups where they lost half their equity to someone who hadn't contributed to the down payment. It just seemed like the smart, logical thing to do to protect myself. Steven seemed fine with it at the time. He said he understood and that it made sense. We agreed that he wouldn't pay rent in the traditional sense, but he would contribute a set amount every month that would go toward the utilities, groceries, and a small portion toward the interest on the mortgage, but not the principal. We calculated it out, and it came to about $900 a month, which is honestly a steal for this area, where a 1-bedroom apartment goes for at least $1,600. It felt fair. I would handle the property taxes, the home insurance, and any major repairs like the roof or the HVAC system, since those are things that add value to the house, which is my asset. Things were going fine for the first year and a half. Steven paid his share on time, usually transferring the money to our joint bills account on the first of the month. We didn't fight about money. We both worked full-time and we kept our personal savings separate while having a joint account for the household stuff. But about 4 months ago, everything just stopped. I noticed the transfer didn't come through on the first. I figured he just forgot, which happens sometimes. Steven can be a bit scatterbrained with dates. I waited a few days, then asked him about it. He told me he was a little short that month because of some car repairs and asked if he could double up next month. I said sure, no problem. I had enough of a buffer in my personal account to cover the bills for a month. We are married after all, and I didn't want to be a stickler about one missed payment. Then the next month rolled around, and again, no transfer. I asked him about it, and he gave me a vague answer about his hours being cut at work and needing to catch up on his credit card bill. I started to get a little worried because $1,800 is a significant amount of money for me to cover on my own on top of the principal mortgage payment. I asked if we needed to sit down and look at his budget, maybe see where we could cut costs. He got really defensive and said I was trying to micromanage him. He said he would handle it and to stop nagging him about it, so I dropped it, thinking he was just stressed. 3 days ago, I came home from work and found a pile of packages from Amazon on the porch. They were all addressed to Steven. Inside were expensive electronics, a new gaming headset, a mechanical keyboard, and some other computer parts. I was confused because he had just told me he was too broke to pay his share of the electric bill. I walked inside and he was setting up the new gear in the spare room, which he uses as his office. I asked him how he could afford all this stuff when he owed the household account almost $3,000 at this point. He didn't even look up from what he was doing. He just said, "I decided I'm not paying that anymore." I thought he was joking. I asked him what he meant. He turned around and looked at me like I was the one being unreasonable. Said, "I've been thinking about it, and I realized that since I'm not on the deed, I'm basically just a guest in this house. Guests don't pay mortgage interest. Guests don't pay for the water they use to shower. If you want to be the sole owner, then you can be the sole payer." I was stunned. I tried to explain that guests don't live somewhere for 2 years. Guests don't eat the groceries I buy every week. Guests don't have a dedicated office room. I reminded him of the agreement we made before he moved in. He said that agreement was coercive because he didn't realize how unfair it was at the time. He told me that he had been talking to his friend Hannah about it. Hannah is a real estate agent and an old friend of his from college. Apparently, Hannah told him that I was taking advantage of him by making him pay down my living costs while I built equity and he got nothing. Steven said, "Hannah opened my eyes. Why should I help you get richer? If I'm paying $900 a month, that's money I'm setting on fire. I should be investing that money in something that belongs to me." I asked him if he expected to live here for free then. He said, "Yes, we're married. You're supposed to provide a home for your spouse. Since you insist on this house being yours alone, then the cost of running it is yours alone." I told him that was insane. I told him that even if he rented an apartment, he wouldn't get equity, but he'd still have to pay rent. He said, "But I'm not renting from a landlord. I'm living with my wife. You're treating me like a tenant, so I'm treating you like a landlord who refuses to do maintenance on the lease. That didn't even make sense. Then he dropped the other shoe. He told me that for the last 4 months, the months he claimed he was broke, he had actually been taking that $900 a month, plus extra money from his salary, and putting it into a high-yield savings account. He and Hannah are planning to buy an investment property together, a fixer-upper that they want to flip. He said he needs to save up his capital so he can have something of his own since I won't share my house with him. So basically, I have been subsidizing his life, paying for his food, his electricity, his internet, and the roof over his head, allowing him to save almost 100% of his disposable income so he can go buy a house with another woman. I mean, it's a business partnership, supposedly, but it feels like financial infidelity. I asked him why he didn't tell me this was the plan. Why lie about the car repairs? Why lie about the hours being cut? He said, because I knew you'd freak out. You're control freakish about money. Hannah said you would try to stop me from building my own wealth. Hannah. Everything was Hannah said this or Hannah thinks that. I've met Hannah a few times. She's always been nice enough to my face, but I always got the vibe that she thought Steven could do better. She makes these little comments about how lucky Steven is to have a wife who wears the pants. I told Steven that he couldn't just unilaterally decide to stop contributing to the household. I showed him the spreadsheet of our expenses. I showed him that my salary covers the mortgage and insurance, but without his contribution for utilities and food, I'm breaking even or dipping into my emergency fund every month. He shrugged. He literally shrugged. He said, "You make more than me. You can afford it. If you want me to pay bills, put my name on the deed. Then I'll pay half of everything. Until then, I'm a guest, and I'm saving my money for my project with Hannah." I told him that putting him on the deed now, after he just lied to me for months and stole from our household budget, was absolutely not happening. He said, "Fine, then the bank of Steven is closed." I walked out of the room because I was shaking. I was so mad. I went to the bedroom and locked the door. I checked our joint account, and sure enough, it's almost empty. He's been draining it for groceries that I never see, or maybe he's just moving cash out. I don't even know what to do. I feel like I'm living with a stranger. He's sitting in the other room playing games on his new computer, eating a sandwich made with bread and turkey I paid for, using electricity I'm paying for, in a house I bought, while plotting a real estate empire with his college friend. I texted Hannah. I probably shouldn't have, but I was furious. I asked her if she thought it was ethical to advise a married man to stop supporting his household so he could invest with her. She replied with a bunch of laughing emojis and said, "It's business, honey. Steven needs to look out for Steven. You should be happy he's showing some ambition." I am not happy. I feel used. I feel like they are laughing at me. Steven thinks this is a negotiation tactic. He thinks if he holds out long enough and makes me feel the financial pinch, I'll cave and put him on the deed just to get his help with the bills again. But honestly, I don't think I want him on the deed anymore. I don't think I even want him in the house. I'm sitting here looking at my bank app, calculating how long I can keep the lights on without his help, and wondering if I can legally kick him out if we are married. He's walking around the kitchen right now making noise, probably looking for dinner. I didn't cook anything tonight. I'm not going to cook for a guest who doesn't pay. I know people are going to say I should have just combined finances from the start, or that I was wrong to keep the house separate, but I really thought we had a solid agreement. I trusted him to keep his word. I never imagined he would weaponize his contribution like this or team up with a friend to manipulate me. I need to figure out my next move. I can't live like this, paying for a grown man to play house for free while he schemes with his friend. Update 1: It's been 5 days since the big fight with Steven, and things have escalated quickly. I haven't been sleeping much, mostly just staying in my bedroom with the door locked whenever he's home. The atmosphere in the house is toxic. I decided I needed professional advice, so I took a half day off work and met with a divorce attorney. I didn't tell Steven I was going. I just said I had a dentist appointment. The lawyer, let's call her Rebecca, was pretty blunt with me. She told me that since the house is a premarital asset, and I've kept the finances relatively separate, meaning I haven't been using his money to pay the principal mortgage directly, I have a very strong claim to keep the house 100% in my name. However, because he has been living here, getting him out isn't as simple as just changing the locks. Rebecca explained that he has established residency, obviously, and since he's my husband, he has rights to the marital home, even if his name isn't on the deed. But his refusal to pay bills and his admission that he is diverting marital funds, his income, into a separate account to buy property with a third party, Hannah, is a huge issue. I learned that in our state, income earned during the marriage is generally considered marital property. So the money he's been saving in his secret account to buy that flip house with Hannah Half of that is technically mine. When Rebecca told me that, I almost laughed out loud. Steven thinks he's being so smart protecting his money, but he's actually just hoarding our money. I went home feeling a bit more empowered, but also really sad. I didn't want a divorce. I wanted a partner, but the way Steven is acting, it's like he hates me. When I got home, Steven was in the kitchen with Hannah. I didn't know she was coming over. They had blueprints or floor plans spread out on my kitchen island. They were drinking a bottle of wine, my wine that I bought for our anniversary last year and we hadn't opened yet. I just stood there in the doorway. Hannah looked up and smiled this really condescending smile and said, "Hey, we're just going over some numbers for the project. Steven said you wouldn't mind." I minded. I minded a lot. I asked Hannah to leave. I told her she wasn't welcome in my house. Steven slammed his hand on the counter and said, "This is my home too, and I can have guests." I looked at him and said, "You told me you were a guest. Guests don't invite other guests over without the owner's permission." Steven turned red. He tried to argue, but Hannah actually rolled her eyes and started gathering up her papers. She said, "It's fine, Steven. The vibe here is terrible anyway. We can go to my place." Before she left, she looked at me and said, "You're really holding him back, you know. He has so much potential, and you're treating him like a child." After she left, Steven and I had a massive blowout. He accused me of embarrassing him. He said I was jealous of Hannah because she understands business and I'm just a wage slave who is obsessed with safety. He admitted that they put an offer in on a rundown duplex on the other side of town. He said they're closing in 3 weeks. He was bragging about it, saying, "See, I didn't need your help. I did this on my own." I asked him where the down payment money came from. He said, "I saved it. While you were charging me rent, I was saving every penny I had left." I asked, "And the last 4 months when you paid nothing?" He said, "That was the closing costs. I needed that cash flow." He literally admitted he stopped paying for food and electricity so he could pay closing costs on a house with another woman. I told him I saw a lawyer. His face dropped a little, but then he puffed his chest out again. He said, "Good. Get a lawyer, you can't touch my investment. Hannah put it in an LLC. My name isn't even on the main paperwork yet, just hers, but we have a side agreement." I don't know if he realizes how dumb that is. If his name isn't on the paperwork, Hannah owns that house, not him. He just handed her all his savings. I didn't point that out to him. I just let him think he's a genius. I told him I want him to move out. He refused. He said he's staying until his new place is renovated and ready to live in, which could be months. He expects to stay here, rent-free, bill-free, eating my food until he and Hannah flip their house. I went into the pantry and took all the food I had bought, the snacks, the good coffee, the stuff he likes, and I locked it in the trunk of my car. I put a lock on the thermostat so he can't crank the AC down to 65 like he likes. It's petty. I know it's petty, but I'm done being his doormat. If he's a guest who refuses to pay, he gets the bare minimum. My mom called me yesterday. Apparently, Steven called her. He spun this whole story about how I'm being abusive and kicking him out onto the street because he made a business investment. My mom was confused, but once I explained the guest comment and the unpaid bills, she was furious. She offered to come stay with me, but I told her I need to handle this. I'm exhausted. I have to go to work tomorrow and pretend everything is normal while my husband is at home, planning his new life with his best friend using money he effectively stole from our household. Update 2: I filed for divorce. The papers were served to Steven at work 2 days ago. I didn't want to do it at the house because I didn't want a scene, but honestly, part of me wanted him to feel the embarrassment of getting served in front of his colleagues. The last week has been a nightmare of tension. Steven realized I was serious about the no pay, no perks rule. I changed the Wi-Fi password. He came banging on my bedroom door at 11 p.m. demanding the new password because he needed to work. I told him internet is a utility for paying residents. He had to use his phone data. After he got served, he came home early. I was in the kitchen making tea. He looked like he had been crying or maybe just yelling. He threw the papers on the table and asked, "Is this what you want? You're throwing away our marriage over a few electric bills." I stayed calm. I had practiced this with my therapist. I told him it wasn't about the bills, it was about the disrespect. It was about him unilaterally changing the terms of our relationship, lying to me about his finances, and partnering with someone else to build a future while using me as a stepping stone. He switched tactics immediately. He started pleading. He said he would cancel the deal with Hannah. He said he would start paying the bills again. He said, "I was just scared. I felt like I had nothing. I just wanted to feel equal to you." For a second, I almost felt bad for him. He looked pathetic. But then I remembered Hannah's smirk. I remembered him eating my turkey sandwiches while telling me he was a guest. I told him it was too late. The trust is gone. I be married to someone who views me as a landlord he can stiff. Then his parents got involved. Steven's mom showed up at my door yesterday morning while Steven was at work. She let herself in. Stephen must have given her a key, which I never authorized. I was in my pajamas. She sat me down and gave me this long lecture about how marriage is about compromise. She said, Stephen is a man. He needs to feel like he's providing. By keeping the house in your name, you emasculated him. He lashed out. It's natural. She suggested that if I just added his name to the deed now, as a gesture of good faith, he would drop the Hannah project and we could be happy. She said, just sign half the house over to him. It's just paper. It will save your marriage. I couldn't believe it. I told her that her son had been stealing from me for months. I told her about the guest comment. She waved it away. He was hurting, she said. Men say things when they are hurt, but you hold the power. You need to share it. I told her to leave. I told her to give me her key. She refused. She said, this is my son's house. I threatened to call the police. She left, but she called me a cold-hearted B-word on the way out. I called a locksmith immediately and had all the exterior locks changed. It cost me $300, but I don't care. I also installed a Ring doorbell. Stephen came home and his key didn't work. He had to ring the bell. I let him in, but I told him his mom isn't allowed back. He didn't even defend me. He just said, Mom is just worried. You know how she is. Here is the kicker. My lawyer found out more about the LLC with Hannah. It turns out Stephen signed a document stating that his contribution was a personal loan to the LLC, not an equity buy-in. Hannah owns 100% of the LLC. Stephen basically loaned her $20,000, our money, with no collateral and a vague promise of repayment upon sale. If the flip flops or if Hannah decides not to pay him back, he has no legal claim to the property. He has no lien. He has nothing. He gave her the money on a handshake. I haven't told him this yet. My lawyer says we can use this in the divorce settlement. Basically, since he dissipated marital assets, the savings, that $20K counts against his share of any other assets we might split, which isn't much, thankfully. I'm sleeping with a chair under my doorknob now. The locksmith suggested it until I get a proper deadbolt for the bedroom. Stephen is sleeping on the couch because I turned the spare room office into a storage room for my boxes. I moved all his computer stuff into the garage. He was furious, but I told him guests don't get offices. I'm just waiting for the temporary hearing so the judge can hopefully order him to move out. My lawyer says since he has the means to live elsewhere, or he claims to, and the environment is hostile, we have a good shot at exclusive possession of the residence. Update 3, the temporary hearing was 2 weeks ago. It was a disaster for Stephen. The judge was an older woman who did not appreciate Stephen's guest theory. When my lawyer presented the evidence, the text messages where he refused to pay bills, the bank statements showing he was transferring his entire paycheck to the account he shared with Hannah, and the receipts of me paying 100% of the household costs, the judge actually interrupted Stephen's lawyer. She asked Stephen directly, Sir, do you believe that marriage entitles you to a free ride while you speculate on real estate with a third party? Stephen tried to stutter something about financial independence and equity, but he looked like a deer in headlights. The judge granted me exclusive possession of the home. Stephen was given 48 hours to vacate. He was also ordered to pay temporary spousal support, not to me, but in the form of retroactive contribution to the household expenses he skipped. Basically, he owes me back pay for the bills he dodged. The move-out day was chaotic. Hannah showed up with a U-Haul truck to help him. She didn't come inside, thank God. She stayed by the truck. I sat on the porch and watched. Stephen was throwing things into boxes, crying, then yelling, then crying again. He tried to take the TV from the living room. I pointed out that I bought it 3 years ago. He tried to take the blender. I bought that in 2020. He ended up leaving with just his clothes, his computer, his desk, and some personal knickknacks. Before he got in the truck, he walked up to the porch. I thought he was going to apologize. Instead, he looked at me with this pure hatred and said, You forced me to do this. If you had just shared the house, none of this would have happened. You destroyed us because you're greedy. I just said, Goodbye, Stephen. He got in the truck with Hannah. I watched them drive away. I felt this massive weight lift off my chest. I went inside, locked the door, and ordered a pizza. I ate it in the living room in silence. It was the best pizza I've ever had. A few days later, I got a call from a mutual friend, Philip. Philip told me that things aren't going well for Stephen. Apparently, the duplex Stephen and Hannah bought is a money pit. It has major foundation issues they didn't catch during the inspection, or maybe they waived the inspection, knowing them. Stephen is living in the unfinished unit of the duplex. No heat, spotty electricity. He's sleeping on a mattress on the floor amidst drywall dust. Hannah isn't living there. She has her own apartment. And apparently she's starting to get annoyed with Stephen. Philip said Hannah was complaining that Stephen is needy and that he's stressing her out about the renovation budget. I also dropped the bomb about the personal loan versus equity thing to Stephen's lawyer during settlement talks. Stephen apparently went ballistic when he found out he doesn't actually own the duplex. He thought the operating agreement gave him ownership. It didn't. Hannah played him. He's been blowing up my phone with emails. I blocked his number, begging me to stop the divorce, saying he made a mistake, saying Hannah tricked him. He says he's living in squalor and he's sick from the dust. I forwarded the emails to my lawyer. I'm not responding. My parents came over last weekend to help me smudge the house, sage burning and everything. My dad fixed the squeaky floorboard in the hall that Stephen always stepped on to annoy me. It feels like my house again. I'm still dealing with the legal mess. We have mediation next month. I'm going for a clean break. I keep the house, obviously. He keeps his debt and his loan to Hannah. I just want him out of my life. Update 4, the divorce is final. It was finalized yesterday. We didn't even have to go to trial. Stephen caved in mediation. He was desperate for cash. The situation with the duplex imploded completely. From what I gathered, the city shut down their renovation project because they didn't have the proper permits. Hannah had told Stephen she handled it, but she hadn't. They got hit with huge fines. Stephen tried to get his $20,000 back from Hannah. She told him the money was already spent on materials and fines, and since it was a business loan to the LLC, and the LLC is bankrupt, he's out of luck. He can try to sue her, but she has no assets to seize. Stephen walked into mediation looking like a ghost. He's lost weight. He looked dirty. He agreed to everything I asked for just to get it over with. I kept the house, my retirement accounts, and my savings. He took his car, which still needs repairs, and his debt. I waived the retroactive bills. He owed me in exchange for him signing a waiver that he has no claim to the house's appreciation during the marriage. It was a small price to pay to be completely free of him. After we signed the papers, Stephen tried to talk to me in the parking lot. He asked if we could go grab a coffee. He said, I just want to explain my side. I was manipulated by Hannah. She told me you were financially abusing me. I looked at him and said, Stephen, you're a grown man. You chose to listen to her. You chose to stop feeding yourself. You chose to treat your wife like a landlord. I don't care about your side. He started crying again. I have nowhere to go, he said. Hannah kicked me out of the site. I'm sleeping in my car. I got in my car and locked the doors. I drove away. I didn't look back in the rearview mirror. It was harsh. I know, part of me, the part that loved him when we first met, felt a twinge of guilt. But then I remembered the months of gaslighting, the guest comments, the entitlement. He was willing to bleed me dry to build a castle with someone else. The fact that his castle turned out to be made of sand isn't my problem. I'm focusing on myself now. I repainted the spare room. It's a library now, not an office. I bought new furniture for the living room because the old couch reminded me of him sleeping on it. I ran into Hannah at the grocery store the other day. Small town hazards. She tried to duck down an aisle, but I saw her. She looked tired. I didn't say anything. I just continued shopping. I bought the expensive steak and the good bottle of wine. I'm going to cook a nice dinner tonight in my kitchen in my house that I pay for. And I'm going to enjoy the silence. No guests, just me. It's been a horrible 6 months, but I learned a valuable lesson. When someone tells you they are a guest in your life, believe them and show them the door.